Welcome back to Speedrun, the fast-talking video game podcast where we talk about pretty much any video game thing that intrigues us. My name is Jamie, the host, who would like to make a toast to the GBA. And of course, joining me is the one and only Jazzie. How you doing, fam?
I'm good. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, I mean, you're the co-host.
I'm sorry, you broke up really bad right there. Discord decided that calling was not going to be a thing. Could you repeat that?
Oh, I said, I mean, you are the co-host.
I am the co-host, yes.
Last time, we started the podcast. And by last time, I mean like 15 minutes ago.
Lay gasp. Over the course of one bathroom break between then and now is when the podcast started.
So, I've also decided after one episode to fire the egg timer.
Egg timer has been canceled, as we talked about in last episode's outro.
Absolutely. But that's okay because now I have Google Countdown. So, let's
Google
do this.
Countdown. Let's do it. 10 minutes on the clock. What are we talking about?
So, now that we're on the clock, today's episode. I almost said today's video, but this is not a video. This is a podcast. We are deciding what is the best Game Boy Advance, because both of us are very privy to the GBA.
I love the GBA. Outside of my computer, I would say that the GBA is likely my favorite console. And yes, I know it's a handheld. You can calm down now.
I mean, technically it is a console since I have my nice Game Boy player sitting at my desk right now, actually.
Absolutely. So going through the different models, we have the good old-fashioned Game Boy Advance. No backlight, no anything. There's a Game Boy
good
player.
Good old-fashioned without a backlight? Ew.
Yeah, I know. The Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Player, Game Boy Advance SP, Game Boy Advance SP AGS 101, Game Boy Micro, and the DS. Those are all the official avenues to play your cartridges. So just go off. What's your favorite?
My favorite is the Game Boy player. Especially once you can get into fuckery with modding, so you can really make it just pop at a nice 240p proper. Mm-hmm. I love the Game Boy player. It's really nice. It's also of all of Nintendo's add-ons that let you play Game Boy games on your TV. It's the only one that supports Game Boy Color games.
That is true.
And actually, I think if we count third-party ones, it's the only one. Like even the Super Retro Advance can just play GBA games.
Yep.
Game Boy player can do Game Boy Color, and GBA, and it works great. And it was also, they're expensive nowadays since you need a boot up disc, but it was an excuse for me to get a Japanese GameCube since the Japanese ones are cool and cheap. And now I have an Orange Spice GameCube, and I love it. And you know, nothing brings me happiness quite like a GameCube with a Game Boy player. What's your favorite?
Absolutely. Oh, I've got to say, if we're going official hardware, I'm going to have to say the AGS 101. And that's because not only are you able to like turn it on and play it and take it wherever you want with you, it's rechargeable, so you're not going to be wasting a bunch of AA's and polluting the environment. But it also, this one is really important for me because I love Pokemon. I'm way into Gens 1, 2, and 3. It has a trade port on it. It has the multiplayer link cable port on it. And that is so important to how I use my Game Boy, because I'm working on a Gen 3 complete living Pokedex between Fire Red, Leaf Green, Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, Coliseum, and XD. And if you don't have any sort of way, like a DS or a Micro, to interface with your cartridges, you have so many Johto Pokemon that you just cannot get from XD or Coliseum. I'm sorry, I had a little brain fart there. And it's really hard to do any sort of trading, or you could use strip the save file from your cartridge and then load it into a ROM and then go on an emulator and trade it over the internet and do all sorts of crazy stuff like that, like I've done before. But that's so much work. And sometimes you just want to pull it open, turn it on, play the damn game.
Absolutely. Now, what's important about the 101 is that that's a Game Boy Advance SP, and there are two varieties of that. There's the 001, which had a frontlit screen. The 101 has a backlit screen. And it looks so crispy, so clean. The GBA Micro technically has a better screen, but it can't do Game Boy or Game Boy Color games. It's just bragging rights. That's all you get with a Micro. I love it, though.
The micro is so cool, and I had such high hopes for it. But when it came out, I was in middle school, and I was still completely enamored with Gens 1 and 2 of Pokemon, and a ton of other Game Boy and Game Boy Color games, because I'm an old crusty millennial. And I just couldn't, I just couldn't make the compromise to not have Kirby's Dream Land on Game Boy Color with me everywhere I went. So I just kept on. I upgraded. I had like 3 GBA SPs. I had a 001, which broke, a 001, which the battery died. I eventually did figure out in 3rd grade how to replace those batteries. And then eventually an AGS 101, which was my favorite, and I regret selling it before the price spiked, but that's life.
The thing as well is, like, the 2 SP models, I have memories with both of them, because I own every GBA model. The 001 I own is still the one I got back in the day with Super Monkey Ball Jr. of all things, which is a great port, by the way. It has some scratches on the top, but the screen is pristine. I have no idea how I managed to keep it intact. Like, even despite, like, being on a road trip and getting a car broken into and having all my DS and GBA stuff, like, stolen, that thing somehow would, like, fallen under a seat during that, and I still have it.
Damn. That's awesome.
As for my 101, what happened with that is I found that the summer, it was one of my last big gaming finds before I moved back to Canada from Texas. And I went to a garage sale in my parents' neighborhood, and there was a guy just selling it. He was like, I don't know what it's worth. Do you want to make an offer? I was like, all right, that is an AGS 101. It has a backlit screen. They're sought after. And he had a bunch of games, like all the Mario Advance games. I'm like, you could get like...
Ooh.
At the time, I was like, you could get at least $50 to $60 for this. He was like, thank you for your honesty. It's yours for $20.
Oh, nice. Nice. That's a score.
Yeah, he was like, thank you for your honesty. I just want to get rid of it. He's like, I feel like you'll take good care of it.
Yes. Now, Jamie, those are all the official avenues to play. We have a couple minutes left on the podcast, and I would be remiss as a Game Boy Advance enthusiast if we didn't mention all the non-official ways to play official cartridges in flash carts. And
of course.
The first two that come to mind, basically, the reason why people get non-official is because they want the original form factor with a backlit screen.
Either a good screen.
A good screen, not a frontlit, a good screen. Or some people want a totally different form factor, or whatever the reason is that they don't want an original piece of hardware, they want something else. I have a Boxy Pixel all-metal GBA that we alluded to last time. It has official hardware on the inside, but it's a machined aluminum case on the outside, and it's gorgeous and unibody, backlit IPS screen with a rechargeable battery. Another popular option is the Analog Pocket, which went up for pre-order a couple months ago and just immediately sold out. Not sure if they're going to make more, but
I hope they do.
Again, I'd be remiss if I didn't
games.
mention those.
Honestly, like, I need to do like a GBA episode of Retrospective or something just so I can have you on there and show off that beautiful, beautiful Boxy Pixel GBA. Like, that thing is mouth-wateringly beautiful.
It's almost as if that is foreshadowing. Wink!
I hope so.
That was like, we said last time, that was the beginning of our like professional relationship here. Is I showed it off and you were like, hey, you want to do a video on this? And I was like, yeah?
I like it. But like, you have to understand, like, I'm not letting myself buy any more consoles because I'm literally out of space. I could have maybe, like, I know it's a GBA, but like, I own over like 60 consoles and handhelds combined. I think I'm good for now.
You know, Boxy Pixel does do metal enclosures for Switches. Wink.
Don't encourage me.
How much time do we have left on the egg timer?
Right now on the virtual egg timer, we have 1 minute and 5, 4. You get it.
Yeah. Last thoughts on the GBA before the timer runs out?
Best model is either the Boxy Pixel. I love the Analog Pocket, but if you have to get a third-party one, the Boxy Pixel ones have that original form factor, which is great. It feels best in the hands, but it has a really wonderful screen and also a rechargeable battery. If you must go official and want something handheld, opt for an AGS 101 over a DS, so you can still use the link cable port and play Game Boy and Game Boy Color games. If you want just in general the absolute best one, get a Game Boy player. They're expensive, but they're cool. And emulation exists, but we're going at this as like nerdy collectors.
Yes, emulation is great.
Also, worst model
this
is
is
the
not
original.
a slam on emulation. Yes, worst model is the original. That is like unequivocal worst model.
Do you want to add anything to what I just said?
Yes, emulation is cool, but original cartridges are cooler. Perfect timing. There it is. Cool.
There it is.
I've been Jazzie.
And I've been Jamie. Thank you for listening to Speedrun. Would you like to plug anything?
I want to plug my videos here on the channel. They're going to be coming out soon. And the Stuff We Play Network Patreon, where you can support the creators on this channel, like myself and Jamie here.
Absolutely. Am I going to be calling it the SWPN Patreon, or just the Stuff We Play Patreon, the Stuff We Play Treon?
Stuff We Play Treon, I think, is great. I think you should run with that.
I'm going to run with that. Of course, subscribe to SWPN. Listen to this podcast, hopefully on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Download it to your iPod.
Hell yeah. I love my old iPod.
Oh, I love mine too. Ooh, that's an episode, because I bought an old school iPod Nano for $5 at Value Village a couple months back.
Whew. Nice.
I love that thing. It's filled with like 80s new wave and video game soundtracks.
That's a tangent that we're going to talk about in the iPod episode.
Absolutely. Hopefully wink nudge. We'll see. But
see.
Yes, subscribe to SWPN, subscribe to Stuff We Play, and if you have any ideas for future episodes, email me at jamie@stuffweplay.com. Business inquiries also welcome.
We will see you next time.
Yeah, thank you very much for listening. Stay classy, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.